Real early. No one. Wow. There's usually someone here. All right, there's one mic. We got one person. Kenneth, how are you? Glad that you're here with us, with me and you. It's just you and I. Starting like 5 minutes early. Hello, Jess B. How are you? Wow, that's so weird. It doesn't even register that there's 2 people. Now it registers 4. All right. YouTube's like algorithm is so weird. Can't complain though, right? Who's going to listen? I'm doing well. I am doing well. Thank you for asking. Gavin Rogers, how are you, my friend? Thank you for joining us tonight. JP. Doing good. Emailed a couple times. Tazewell County. I'll try email. Make it send. I'll try. I did not get an email back from you, buddy, or from you. And I don't know if you've ever heard, but I sometimes don't. So try to send it now while we're on the live so I can check and make sure that I got it. Rodney Clark, how are you? Thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. Kevin Thompson, what's going on? Rick, what's up, buddy? Just good. How are you? Yeah, it doesn't go to my spam. I just don't get them. It's really weird. I do not get emails. That's why I try to respond like that day or the next day. And then when someone's like, "Hey, you didn't respond to me," I'm like, "Well, it's because I didn't get it." Mike Prowse, how are you, buddy? Going on tour. Rush is going on tour. No shit. The best 3-man band ever. Geddy Lee. What's up, Bob P? How are you? Troy, how are you? Welcome. DB Mac. What's up, brother? DB Mac the third. You know, he's like, DB Mac has like a wealth of family tie right there. The third. I am Daniel Brad McBolin the third. Wesley September, Boss Monster. Well, they have a new drummer. I did not know that. Jane should be in here tonight. I know she's doing well, or getting better slowly. The aging process is a terrible thing. It fucking sucks. What's up, Leah? How are you? Yeah, the aging process is terrible. Like, I don't even know. It's just terrible. What's going on, Jimmy? How are you, brother? Conscious Wanderer? Jimmy. SDL. What's up, ATD? ATD 124. That is Star Wars weapon. Doesn't that sound like a weapon of Star Wars? ATD 124. It's what the stormtroopers use to aim correctly. There she is. How are you, dearie? The freaking channel's godmother, Janie Lindley, is in the house. Will Rocks. With a name like that, your day is just good. Will Rocks. Hollow, how are you? John Williams. Oh no, ATD. You're not my dad. You don't want to be. He's a crotchety old fart that yells at rocks. He yells. My dad yells at everything that fucking exists. If he trips on it, like he'll walk in the driveway and he'll fucking step on a pine cone and he's like, this goddamn thing. Bah, bah, bah. Yes, I am, Jane. Yes, I am. No, I'm just kidding. I'm glad that you're here with us. Lock in. How are you? Lock in stuff. Andy Davis is in the house with us. Mr. Andy Davis. Robert Gerard, how are you? Adam Condon. I just didn't comb it today. I put no brow cream in my hair today. So it's just like this is what my hair looks like when I don't put brow cream in it. And I get out of the shower and I just throw a shirt on. And I put a baseball cap on. Aramek! How are you, my brother? It might be. It might be Boss Monster. Brow cream is the shit. I love brow cream. Marcy Elwood, how are you? Kyle 83. That's just how my hair looks, Adam Condon. I it's a Revlon look, I guess. I don't know. I was trying to think of something funny to say, but no funniness here. Sharon Williams. Oh, thank you. Weird Science. That's a great movie. Aramek. Always with the compliments to the ladies. Aramek. I gotta look good for Lizzo. I got some really good Lizzo stories for you guys this week. I literally started the Lizzo stories Sunday morning. Sunday morning, one popped into my head, and I was like, I've gotta do this. This is gonna be perfect. Brian Beard, how are you? Nexus, Davey Ward. Whereabouts? What state, Davey Ward? Michigan, Wisconsin, northern area. Oingo Boingo. Wow, that's some classic 80s music right there. North Carolina, huh? All right. Well, I really think that. Oh, shit. Hang on 1 second. Thank you, Leah. Thank you. Hang on 1 second. I'm coming. I was working downstairs today. Thank you, Leah. I was working downstairs today. I was rushing around. Tina Marie, how are you? Brian Mons, how are you, buddy? Holy shit. I literally jumped 10 stairs, heels, and then fucking flew up the stairs. Whew. I'm so glad that it's Saturday. Aramik does not need to improve on anything. You can't prove on perfection. Pretty much, Lily. Pretty much. And thank you for showing up tonight. It means a lot that you're here tonight. And I'll leave it at that. Sniff it out. I do remember when getting, I do remember that. Oh, shiznits. Ginger! Shackle Neck is, I can't believe it. I can't believe it's even here. Really quick, I ended up talking to Brett, Mr. Shackleneck, for 2 hours this week. And Teresa, his wife, wasn't home. So he was home alone. And we ended up just shooting the shit about everything randomly. He's doing better. He's getting stronger. And it's so crazy. His story is so crazy. I'll just give you the quick lowdown on what happened to Shackleneck. He's walking out of his house and looks at Teresa, his wife, and says, "I don't feel good." And he's not the type of guy that would go to the hospital or the doctors or anything. But he's like, "We need to go to the hospital." Boom, he goes to the hospital. And they run all these tests. He ends up having a stroke while he's in the hospital. So, I mean, I guess it's the best place to have a stroke if a stroke is good to have anyway, you know? Couldn't move his arm, leg, and he's just gradually getting... Anyway, he falls in the hospital, breaks his back, breaks like his upper vertebrae or whatever. And the poor guy, he's just like, you know... Harlem, how are you? All right, let me quick say hi to everybody that I missed. Sniff it out. Jane Doe, how are you? Snowman Dave, Eli, Robin, how are you? Orion's cooking mac and cheese with pickles and gravy. Whew. Yeah, he's okay. He's okay, Nexus. He's getting better. Better and better and better. Jilly Bob Jilly Bob Barona. No. How are you? Zilla! There's Zilla. How are you tonight? Cynthia. Balcom 3 time. Nancy, how are you, dear? All right. Now, my breath is caught. Let's start the night with some experiences. Aramik! Naisha Yates, how are you? I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If I didn't, you can correct it, but I believe I did. Naisha Yates, welcome to the live stream. I'm glad that you're here. I don't share, you might not have been here, I don't share Nephilim stories on the live stream because they're so few and far between that they really only deserve their own on the regular week. So that's why if I had one, I would save it for the week show. Yo, I got my three sodas ready. I'm almost done with my first. All right. Hey, Rebecca, how are you? Whew. First of all, this took place on August 27th at around 2 a.m. We were on a road to my boyfriend's house that evening. There were only the two of us in the house. We had carefully closed the gate, the shutters, and the front door beforehand and settled down. Put our things down. For my part, I headed to the toilet. Since the beginning of the week, myself and boyfriend had felt the atmosphere was weird. That evening, after putting down my things, I went to the toilet and I felt myself being directly observed by something. At first, I didn't pay attention to it, but at one point, I turned my head toward the toilet window, which overlooked the garden. Knowing that there was no sill on the window and that there was about a 1.9 meter between the floor and the window, that's when I saw eyes looking at me. They were a orangish brown, just staring at me. I thought it was a hallucination because it was late and maybe fatigue had played a role, but I still got closer to check if it was indeed a hallucination or if it was real. As there were only two of us, I was not at all reassured. As I got closer, I saw that it was eyes staring at me, so I turned the light off, but the eyes were still there. Then suddenly, I let out a cry of fear. I was horrified. My heart had stopped. I ran off to join my boyfriend and locked ourselves in the room and tried to reassure ourselves that maybe it was an animal, but that was impossible. So we called the family and left the house because we were not sure what was going on. When leaving, we locked the gate securely. The next day, we came back to see the place. Upon arriving, the gate was once again open. We went in and walked around the garden. This is where we noticed the marble table placed below the toilet window. On it, we could see traces of legs and knees superimposed, as if something had climbed up to look into the window. What was odd was that there were no signs of any violation, no footprints, nothing at all, except for this mark on the table, the eyes I had seen in the dark, and this open gate, even though we had closed it tightly. We left and decided to take our minds off of things by going to a party that evening. The next day, we wanted to come back and check. Because there were so many burglaries going on that moment, we were afraid that someone would try to enter the house. When we returned, we noticed that the room in the house was lit. However, we had turned all of the lights on. It was very suspicious. It was not due to electricity because the switch was indeed in its on position. Even more disturbing, steps in the house nor outside. Since we were alone in the house, we had also noticed unusual and strange smells, which had not existed before. However, everything was airy, but this disturbing smell persisted. I constantly had a feeling of presence, as if someone was with us. To this day, I still do not know what happened. I couldn't tell if it was someone or something, hallucination, something else, but that moment was awful and terrifying. I felt a deep unease and intense unease at that moment. Here's my thing that she didn't think about. Why didn't she think about a marble table being moved? If it was like a marble table, like that's a freaking heavy object to move against a windowsill. I mean, that'd be my first. That would be my first thing that I would notice. I would be like, that's a marble table. If indeed, like I'm saying, if indeed it is a marble table, or if it's, a false marble table, just a decorative. But still, if it was indeed marble, that's a heavy table. T. How are you? I'm glad that you watch my videos. I really need to email you and tell you my bizarre encounters with Dogman, crawlers, and Sasquatch. Hang on one second. I don't know if you have my email. Thank you, SDL. ADOLN. ny.jeff@gmail.com. Email address is right under Zilla. Yep, I had a fight with the razor this week too. I did. Most people call me Jilly. Southern Ontario Sasquatch, how are you? It's because everything is good. Once I swear to God, like I have I have only been in a few live streams with other channels. And so my friend Zach or the disciple was in here last week. And he's a YouTuber. Um he's friends with Mr. Black, who's got like 1 million subscribers. But he was so impressed with the live stream and you guys. What's up, Keith? How are you, buddy? Happy birthday, Randy, man. Margie. He was so impressed with the amount of respect and amount of like just the conversation, how it flows with everybody and you guys, how great you guys are. He was just like, wow. He goes, your audience is amazing. Happy birthday to Randy. Happy birthday to Randy. Happy birthday to Randy. Happy birthday to you. Phoenix Fire. Still have to go through. That's pretty crazy. Are the guards still there? Like, are the guards still at like the gate and shit, like around the perimeter of everything? I know you can't like go directly on base, and supposedly if you get too close to the fence, they can come and make you disappear. Southern Charmer, how are you, dear? Blake, how are you? Many guards. Yeah, I'm sure they do. That's crazy. I would honestly love to go there. They called back up. Holy shit. All right. So I'll do this one encounter and then we'll jump into a lot lizard. Hercules! How are you? Mickey Mouse, how are you? I live in Rhode Island, and for my 16th birthday, I took 6 of my friends, including my sister and her friend, to Tower Hill Road for ghost hunting. Our experience there was one that would traumatize us. We came across a driveway on that road that seemed pretty creepy, but that made me want to explore it more despite feeling terrified by it. My friend Reese can see and feel spirits and had a horrible feeling, but still I wanted to look around. We experienced a spirit lady called the Lady in White. She was telling us to leave, but we did not listen. A part of me wishes we had. We had an experience with a malicious and powerful entity that was putting me and my friend Simon into a trance, leading us there. It was calling my friend Reese's sister's name, telling her to go over to it as well. Then it showed itself to us. We all saw the same thing. A figure of a head that seemed as if it was morphing and had a smile. Reese said it was not human. Its body was crooked. The lady in white told us to run, and I had to be dragged away, too caught up in the trance. But once I snapped out of it, I ran back into the car in terror. I believe that the entity was what caused the death of the lady in white, and she was trying to protect us along with the spirit attached to my 1960s doll. We recorded the experience, but the head wasn't caught on camera. Other things were. We were all shaken and took steps for protection before we even had gotten home. If you do plan to investigate ever at that location, make sure you are protected. There is definitely something demonic there, and it will lead people towards it, maybe to possess them or to cause harm. Also, do not go alone. What's up, Robert Sharp? How are you? That sounds like an interesting evening, Blake. An interesting evening right there. I heard. I heard. Send me an email, Robert. All right. Who's ready for the first lot lizard story? Aw, Zilla, that's so funny. All right, so lizard time. I will give you a choice. We have the return of Saddam Hussein. We have RuPaul, and we have an outer space rubber chicken. You guys pick. Outer space rubber chicken. Saddam Hussein is back and looking for revenge. And we have RuPaul. 3 RuPauls, 1 Saddam, 1 rubber chicken. 2. Oh, Saddam Hussein. Oh my God, they're a tie. It's a tie. Mr. Haunted. All right, here's what's going to happen. I am going to, the next one right now. Sonia, how are you? Just waiting. I'll go with Sonia's. The rubber chicken it is. No, not RuPaul, the rubber chicken, you goofball. Mr. Haunted, thank you so much, my brother. All right, here we go. The neon glow of Lucky Lady's truck stop bled into the inky blackness of a Texas night, painting the asphalt in lurid shades of pink and green. Harlem, thank you so much. Lizzo, queen of the lot lizards, perched regally on an overturned oil drum. Her sequenced halter top, a beacon in the dimness. Tonight was going to be a good night. She could feel it in her glitter-infused roots. The usual parade of weary truckers, their faces etched with the miles, were rolling in, and Lizzo had her sight set on a few new promising ones. And then it happened, a rumble that was not just the usual symphony of diesel engines. This was deeper, more guttural, like a slumbering beast stirring. Into the lot crawled a behemoth of a truck, a military surplus 18-wheeler, olive drab and imposing. Its trailer, a cavernous, opaque box that seemed to absorb the very light around it. 3 soldiers, their faces grim and set, emerged from the cab, their movements precise, almost unnerving. But it was the driver who truly caught Lizzo's attention. He was a phantom in his perfectly tailored black suit, his eyes shadowed by the brim of a fedora. And when he removed his sunglasses, his eyes gleamed like polished obsidian. This was not just any haul. Well, hello there, handsome, Lizzo purred, sliding off her perch. Her walk, a practiced sway that promised pleasure for a price. The obsidian-eyed driver offered a curt nod, his gaze sweeping over Lizzo and her fellow lot lizards, Cherry, a petite blonde with a penchant for excessive hairspray, and Brenda, a no-nonsense redhead who had seen it all and then some. Earl, Lizzo's loyal and largely interbred trucker beau, stumbled out of his own rig, a slightly dented Peterbilt, his face a road map of stubble and confusion. Lizzo, baby, who's the new meat? He slurred, gesturing vaguely toward the military transport. Lizzo, ever the professional, ignored Earl and focused on the enigmatic driver. Lost sugar? This is the Lucky Lady's finest establishment for weary travelers. The driver's voice was low, gravelly rumble. We're not here for amenities. We are transporting a sensitive shipment, and we require discretion. Discretion was a foreign concept at the Lucky Ladies, but Lizzo understood the universal language of cash. Discretion is my middle name, she lied smoothly, winking, but it'll cost you extra. As if on cue, a low, pulsating thrumming began to emanate from the trailer. The ground vibrated. The soldiers tensed, their hands moving toward their holsters on their hips. The obsidian-eyed driver's jaw tightened. "It's awake," he stated, his voice devoid of emotion. Suddenly, with a sickening rip that sounded like a giant piece of fabric tearing, the reinforced trailer doors buckled outward. Something colossal, something utterly alien began to emerge. It was a rubber chicken, but not any rubber chicken. This was a creature of cosmic proportions. Its skin a glistening, iridescent yellow, its eyes like soulless black marbles, and its beak a gaping maw that dripped with a vicious, luminescent goo. It let out a squawk that was less foul and more the death rattle of a dying star. Chaos erupted. The soldiers, surprisingly quick on the draw, opened fire with what looked like an experimental energy rifle. The beam struck the monstrous chicken, but it only seemed to make him angrier. Its rubbery hide deflected the blasts. Cherry, bless her hairspray-addled heart, let out a shriek that tried to make a run for it. Her sequenced boots slipping on a puddle of spilled motor oil. The cosmic chicken, with a terrifying speed, dipped its massive head, and with a sickening crunch, swallowed Cherry whole. Her final muffled scream was cut short, a tiny speckle of blonde hair, the only evidence she ever existed. Lizzo's jaw dropped, her carefully applied lipstick smudged. "Cherry, you bastard!" she roared, her maternal instincts overriding the shock. Earl, jolted from his stupor by the sheer absurdity and the horrifying demise of Cherry, found a new surge of adrenaline. He grabbed the nearest object, a hefty tire iron, and charged. "Leave my Lizzo ladies alone, you overgrown bath toy!" The obsidian-eyed driver, surprisingly agile, produced a sleek silver pistol that hummed with an unseen energy. He joined the fray, his shots finding their mark with unnerving accuracy, each blast making the rubber chicken twitch and spasm. "This is not a rubber chicken," the driver grunted, ducking a swipe from one of the creature's flipper-like appendages. "It's a bioengineered extraterrestrial hunter-predator, designed Project Cluck." Lizzo, fueled by righteous fury and indignation of losing her protege to a space follow, let out a primal scream, her sequenced halter top straining with rage. She carded broomstick, its bristles still flecked with last week's spilled coffee, and charged. "You ate Cherry! You're going down, you feathered freak!" The battle was a bizarre ballet of destruction. Earl, surprisingly adept with that tire iron, swung with wild abandon, connecting with the creature's rubbery limbs with a series of satisfying thwacks. The soldiers provided suppressive fire, their energy beams creating spectacular light shows against the night sky. The obsidian-eyed driver moved with lethal grace, his shots precise, targeting the weak points that Lizzo would have not even noticed. "Its sensors are vulnerable," the driver yelled, his voice strained. Lizzo, seeing an opening, swung that broomstick with all her might, aiming for one of the creature's bulbous black eyes. The bristles scraped against its rubbery surface, but then with a lucky, desperate thrust, the splintered end of the broomstick found its mark. The eye popped with a surprising wet splat, spraying black, vicious goo into Lizzo's already disheveled hair. The creature roared, a sound of pure agony and confusion. It stumbled, its immense form thrashing. Earl seized the opportunity, landing a mighty blow to the creature's elongated neck with the tire iron. The soldiers unleashed a concentrated barrage of energy, and the obsidian-eyed driver fired his humming pistol directly into the creature's now exposed throat. With a final gargantuan sigh, the rubber chicken convulsed and collapsed. Its iridescent yellow skin deflated like a ruptured balloon. It lay there, a grotesque, deflated parody of a paltry product. The faint smell of ozone and something vaguely like burnt sugar hung in the air. Silence descended, broken only by the panting breaths of the combatants and a distant drone of crickets. Lizzo, covered in alien goo and sweat, looked at her motley crew. Earl, his face alight with a drunken triumphant scratch and itch on his back. The soldiers were meticulously cleaning their weapons, and the obsidian eye driver, his suit surprisingly pristine, simply nodded. "Thank you for your assistance," he said, his voice still gravelly, but with a hint of something unreadable. He then turned to the remaining soldiers. "Secure the remains. We have a rendezvous point to reach." As the military tractor trailer, now bearing the scars of the intergalactic battle, began to pull away, the obsidian eye driver paused. He looked at Lizzo, and for the first time a faint, almost smile touched his lips. "Lucky ladies," he mumbled. "Quite an establishment." Lizzo, still reeling, managed a weak, sequenced smile. "We aim to please, sugar, even unconventional clients." Earl stumbled over, slinging an arm around Lizzo's shoulders. "Yeah, we show that big chicken who's boss." Lizzo just shook her head, a weary smile on her face. The night had definitely been more interesting than she anticipated. And while Cherry was gone, the distinct aroma of space chicken goo would probably haunt her nightmares for weeks. At least she had gotten paid. The obsidian-eyed driver had, with another curt nod, pressed a wad of crisp bills into her hand before disappearing into the truck's cab. More than enough to replace Cherry's lost hairspray, and then some. As the last vestige of the military truck faded into the darkness, Lizzo looked up at the stars, a newfound respect for the universe and its bizarre inhabitants blooming in her heart. Who knew that a night of turning tricks could turn into a fight against an alien poultry monstrosity? Only at Lucky Ladies, where the neon lights never truly slept, the clientele was always out of this world. And as a fate of Project Cluck, well, that's a story for another night and another truck stop under another sky with perhaps, just perhaps, a whole lot more glitter. Thank you. All about turning tricks. Randy, I'm glad that you liked it, buddy. I am glad that you liked it. Happy birthday, my friend. Project Clock. Thank you, Arabic. Donald Duck, how are you? Kimberly Miller, how are you? All right. Thank you, Jess. What's up, Danny? All right, here we go. That was gross. Washington backwoods. My boyfriend and I have had some pretty creepy, surreal, just outright odd experiences in Washington State, and I wanted to share them with you guys. Sinkholes and white creatures. Around 2020 through 2021. Zilla, thank you so much, buddy. Thank you. Actually, I got to thank someone else. They did something while I was doing that, too. I saw something green. Paul Sheets, welcome. Thank you. Zilla, thank you, my friend. You guys are great. I appreciate you all. Sinkholes and white creatures. Around 2020 through 2021, we were doing a lot of exploring since we were out of work due to the pandemic. Originally from New Mexico, we were new to the area. We spent some time in Port Angeles and then road tripped through the western and southern parts of the Olympic Peninsula. We stopped to check out Rosario Beach, which was breathtaking. On our way out, we found a nice spot off the road in the woods to make a quick sandwich before driving south to the reservation. By this time, it was starting to get dark, but the trees in the area were so beautifully dense and mossy, we decided to take a little walk. We both love nature and feel really connected to it, so a short walk in the woods at the time of day didn't initially seem too daunting to us, especially together. As we walked, and as the last bits of sunlight faded into the darkness, a heavy and very eerie feeling came over me. Shackleback! Thank you, brother! We noticed what we can only describe as sinkholes in the area, and we got a little freaked out because my boyfriend took a step, and his foot sunk into the ground up to his thigh. I had to help to pull him up and get him free. More of the ground fell away and widened into a literal hole going straight down. The area was so soft and fragile, we wanted to get out of danger of that area ASAP, so we started carefully heading back. I still had an eerie feeling, and the night became freezing cold. This was about early September time, but the day was really warm, maybe 80-ish, so the temperature drop felt a little off. But with the forest, maybe it's normal. I could see my breath and couldn't stop shivering. As we continued on our way back, we decided we weren't backtracking properly because we should have been to the car by now. So we tried the Google Maps, but we didn't have service under the thick canopy. We tried our best to reorient ourselves and find anything that looked familiar, but nothing seemed right. Now, we really didn't walk very far before we found the sinkholes, maybe 100 to 200 meters, so finding our way back shouldn't have been that difficult. Then I started hearing rustling in the brush around us. I asked my boyfriend if he was hearing it as well, and he said yes. As we walked, I stayed as close to him as I could and just kept my eyes on the ground, watching where I stepped, letting him lead the way. Every once in a while, I would check the surroundings, and I swear I was seeing a white, indiscernible shape moving between the trees just beyond the perimeter of the headlamps. I mean, maybe I was just scared and hallucinating, especially since it was so dark, and the forest can really be disorienting. But I started to get really scared. I felt totally at the mercy of this wild place. I asked, "Are you seeing any movement?" And my boyfriend confirmed. He is more of a strong and silent type, and he didn't say much. He just kept holding my hand, and he said he can see the way out into the clearing, so he led us there. We came out into the work area where the ground was being dug up with large machines, and we were pretty confused as to how we ended up so far from the car. Luckily, from there, we could see the paved road we had parked on. So we beelined there and eventually got to the car. I was relieved. I looked at the map since the service was available, and we had walked about a kilometer with where we ended up, but it did not feel like we had walked that far. And on the map, there were dirt logging roads that we would have had to have crossed to get to where we were. We never saw or crossed one. The next morning, I asked my boyfriend about what he had seen that night. He said he knew I was really scared, and he didn't want to elaborate on what he was seeing at the time. Apparently, he saw 2 or 3 white but kind of hazy-looking humanoid figures moving from tree to tree and behind the brush the entire time we were walking back. He also heard odd noises like human vocalization, as if they were saying really quick, but kind of high-pitched, but not very loud and feminine. I don't know how else to describe the sound my boyfriend imitated. I didn't hear it that specifically, but to be fair, I could only hear my own breathing and my heart pounding out of my chest. I also feel safe with my boyfriend. We'd been together for 10 years, and I have no doubt he would do whatever is necessary to protect me and us. But how do you protect yourself from something like that? Also, I didn't know about sinkholes just existing out in the forest like that. I couldn't really even find much online about sinkholes in Washington, so what the hell? Hogshead. We were driving into the forest off of Highway 2 somewhere between Salton and Gold Bar. I can't remember the exact location, but we drove past a pile of hog head, legs, entrails, and skin. We turned around and parked to investigate, and it was clear that someone had just dumped what they considered scraps just off the side of the road. It wasn't very far from the other houses and was super creepy. Something watching from the trees. We were driving on Highway 530 between Mansford and Rockport. I think it was around 1 a.m. We pulled off to the side of the road because my boyfriend needed to grab some cold medicine from the trunk. I got out for a second to get some fresh air. Where we parked was a turnaround point, and to the right was a steep hill/mountain. I got an overwhelming feeling that we shouldn't be here, and all of a sudden, then I could smell the worst, most dehydrated, thick sense of or smell of urine. Not quite like an animal, but almost like an unwell person. I said, I smell urine and we need to go. My boyfriend jumped in and we took off out of there in no time. Later, I learned that people sometimes say that with Sasquatch encounters, they smell urine like that on skunky smells. I had no idea of this. Ghost on the road. We were driving south from Larrabee State Park along the Chuckanut Road into the farmlands at night, and all of a sudden an almost translucent human form appeared standing in the road just a second before we drove by. We drove right through it. The form stayed the same as the car drove through it, and we could see it go from outside of the vehicle to partially into the cabin. I mean, I think technically it moved through my body as well. I can only explain if it was a ghost. It looked male, wearing one of those hipster low profile baseball caps and a orangish yellow windbreaker. I wonder if he was hit by a car or right there. Anyway, I know it's a lot. I have some more experiences out of Washington, but I want to thank you all for letting me share. Shoo. Because it's 20 bucks is 20 bucks. Little bit of thriller. DP Mac, that one was for you, my friend. And Randy Man, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Randy Man. Samara Osborne, how are you? Salty Squatch, how are you? John Sumner, how are you? You know it is, 59th. You know it is. That one's beat. I think someone hit a cat. I hope not. Tyler 420! I know. That is no good, dude. No good. Tigger has Garfield. He's like the outdoor cat. He comes to my back porch and cries. I have to buy him food and treats, even though he has his own house. All right. I've been up since 5 a.m. and I cannot get this off of my mind. Anyway, I'm sleeping and I was having a nightmare that I'm in an apartment looking into the kitchen area, and the drawers, cabinets, and a door to the pantry are all opening and closing and moving by themselves, almost like poltergeist activity. I was scared in the dream, so I began praying. And then my wife, who was in bed next to Arabic, thank you, brother. My bed, who was in, I'll start over again. Sorry. So he wrote this the next morning. So I'm gonna share it like how it's written. I have been up since 5 a.m. and I cannot get this off of my mind. Last night, I'm sleeping. I'm having a nightmare that I'm in an apartment looking into a kitchen area. The drawers, cabinets, and door to the pantry are all opening and closing, moving by themselves, almost like poltergeist activity. I was scared in the dream, so I began to pray. And then my wife, who was in bed next to me, kicked my foot and woke me up because I was clearly distressed and mumbling a lot in my sleep. Here's where things get weird. I jump awake because my wife kicked my foot, and I feel relieved that to not be having that nightmare anymore. I turn my head toward my wife, who is lying behind me, and I say, "Thank you, babe. I'm really sorry about having a nightmare." But I do not hear a response, so I figure she's already fallen back to sleep, or might just be so tired that she's still kind of out of it. Then I turn my head back to facing forward, the direction I was facing the whole time I was sleeping, and I notice something in the corner of the room standing in front of the bedroom door. The room was dark, but its skin still appeared to be like a dark matte gray color. It was really thin, had thin legs, thin arms, a small, almost childlike torso, a thick, narrow neck. Jesus Christ. A narrow neck, and then a really big bulbous head with black almond-shaped eyes. It looked exactly like a traditional gray alien, but it was slightly transparent. Needless to say, I was shocked. And to be honest, my very first reaction was that I was seeing things because I had just woken up. So I rubbed my eyes and it is still there. Trying not to panic and trying to come up with a rational explanation for it, I thought this must be just a dream chemical still working in my brain. So I sit up slightly and look into the other corner of the bedroom by the closet, expecting to see something there as well, but there is nothing there. Then I look up to the ceiling, nothing. Floor, nothing. Other wall, nothing. I look back at the corner of the bedroom door, and it is still right there, standing there completely still, just staring at me with jet black eyes, which were shaped like almonds and appeared to wrap just slightly around the side of its head, much, much larger than human eyes. And it was still slightly transparent, but I am seeing it clearly, and only in that one spot, not anywhere else in the room. Now, because the Texas power grid sucks, I always sleep with a flashlight next to the bed. And after seeing this thing for about a minute and a half, it occurs to me to grab the flashlight. I lean off the bed, reach down, grab the flashlight, and shine it in the corner of the room at this being. And because it's transparent, it became much less visible when I shined the light on it. I could still see it very slightly, but much less. Again, in disbelief at what I am looking at, I began to slowly scan the room with the flashlight. From the bed, of course. I wasn't about to get out of bed. I was too scared. And again, I see absolutely nothing strange anywhere in the room at all, except for this thing. I can see it only in the corner of the bedroom by the bedroom door. I turn the flashlight off and instantly I can see it super clear again, just staring at me. I rub my eyes again and squeeze my eyes together tightly, hoping that when it was not. So finally, I began to truly freak out internally. I began to pray aloud. And after 20 seconds of praying, I literally watched this thing fade out of existence, dematerialize right in front of me. It was still standing there, dead still, just staring at me the whole time. It just seemed to suddenly began increasingly transparent until it was just not there anymore, gone. I've been awake since, spent the rest of the night reading random stuff about these things. I was wondering if anyone else has ever experienced anything like this. That's fucking creepy. That is definitely creepy. I would not want to see that in my bedroom. Stephanie, how are you? Who did I miss? James, how are you? James Simmons. How are you, buddy? Victoria T is with us tonight. Kathy Hayes, I don't know if I said hi to you yet. Paul Sheets. All right, I did say hi to everyone. Jan, how are you? How about this one? First of all, I am very spiritual. I know the theory of prison planet, and I have been studying everything connected with spirituality, astral projection, tarot, energy vampires, and basically, I like to read everything that has to do with anything out of this world, how everything works, why we are here. It intrigues me a lot. A few weeks ago, I meet a dude. He was a boyfriend of a friend of mine. We're smoking some weed, and he starts to talk about his spiritual experiences. High or not, I am not really sure why we started talking about this, but it was an amazing talk if you ask me. He told me he had the most craziest experience with LSD, and what he describes fascinated me. Why? Well, I've known for a long time the term energy vampire, but I've never heard a story about that or had someone to compare it to me. He told me he was with his best friend. They were tripping, and suddenly he saw a red spiral, like velvet, going below to above, and that the friend for sure doesn't look like a human anymore. All of this while his energy, my friend, was being ripped from him. While all of this is happening, while they are tripping, just like my friend who was aware of what was happening, so was his best friend. Like both were aware of what was happening. The trip ended, and from what he told me, his best friend started to act weird, like it was aware of what was going on. They did not talk about it, and my friend cut ties with him not long after. What fascinated me about this experience is the fact that my friend doesn't know a lot of information about such a subject. Anyway, that's his experience. Moondog Rex. Thank you very much. 5 rings. Moondog. What's up, Julie? 5 rings. I don't think you were here last week, buddy. Look what came. That is the 100,000 subscriber. I know, buddy. I know. I just got a new Dodgers hat. Well, I ordered a new Dodgers hat. Wait till you see it when it comes. It's sick. God, I hope that isn't Garfield. Andy Davis, you're supposed to be doing it, buddy. You're the freaking mod. I'll post it. There we go. You know how. Jumpin' Josephs. Oh, yeah, Tyler wasn't here last week either. Thank you, Paul Sheets. Appreciate you. Stacy Lockett, how are you? It's so weird how it happened, too, because we hit the 100,000 on the 21st, right? I got the the approval on the 28th. So a week later, exactly a week later. And then this comes on the 3rd. So another on the 4th, excuse me. So another, like, it was 3 weeks or 2 weeks when I had it in 2 weeks. It's so crazy. That's not my email address, Andy. I'll check, Robert. I usually don't check emails when I'm on the live stream, though, Robert. So I'll check, though. Yes, I did. I got yours too, Kenneth. I'm glad that you're here with us, Stacy Lockett. I'm glad that you're here with us. Is Garfield? Garfield is a neighborhood cat. Yes. Yes. Use it like the lightsaber. I know you can, Five Rings. I bestow you the Jedi. Tigger, he's not really like, Garfield isn't really Tigger's friend. Like, I think he would beat Tigger up, even though Tigger's double his size, because Tigger is just such a Sally boy. But, like, I really hope that isn't fucking Garfield. It's got me, like, fucked up right now. Tigger's probably lying on the couch. Nico, how are you? Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I know. I'm going to read it when I get done with the live, Robert. Help me, please. No one's here at the house, and I just heard a weird noise. Hang on. Dude, that was creepy. No one's here in the house, and I just heard this, like, scratching on the wall. Tigger's sleeping on the thing. Bandito, what's going on? I know, I heard. So you'll have pictures for us then. What's up, Daryl Williams? I hope not, Sasquatch Grandma. I freaking hope not. I don't live. I used to, downstairs used to be a dentist office, but now it's my house. It was, the whole building is haunted actually, but it's been haunted since, like, long before. The front part of the house is like early 1800s. This part of the house, the other half, which the newer half is bigger than the older half, is 1960s. go into the basement, it's really weird. There's a door. There's no way of getting into the basement except this door that you have to pull up. And there's a set of stairs down there. And then you go down and it's all dirt down there. And there's a room that goes partially under the road out front here. And supposedly this house was part of the Underground Railroad, because it's a direct shoot right up to Canada. So supposedly that's where they would hide and house people seeking their freedom. So, Annette, how are you? Yeah, I caught some really interesting stuff with my SLS cam and stuff like that. But yeah, they're downstairs right now, Claire. They're downstairs. I'm gonna bring them. I'm gonna bring them up. Well, Aramic, good question. So one night I was making a video, and it's on the channel. I was playing with my SLS camera, and I'm in the living room, and I'm talking, and I'm just like, I got my SLS camera and I got the camera, and I felt like someone was behind me, like literally right behind me. And I go, I really feel like something's behind me. And I turn around, and you can clearly see that the living room is empty, but there is a stick figure on the SLS camera, like standing directly behind me. And then I had in Isabel's room, there was a stick figure that was always in her room by the windows. I haven't checked in a long time, actually. And then in the downstairs, opposite where my studio is, by the bathroom downstairs, I'm walking through, and another one of those weird feelings where it was like something's behind me. And I had never seen a stick figure this big. It took the entire screen of the SLS camera. And you could clearly see legs and an arm. You just couldn't see it, just extended through the whole thing. I gotta check and see if I know Belle's not home tonight. Yeah, Belle's not here, so that's weird. That is weird. That's creepy. That's creepy. Thanks, Chrissy. I can't stand the smell of sage. I'll say a prayer before I burn that stinky shit. I know they say that it works, and I believe it does, but I just cannot stand the smell of it. It makes me nauseous. Yeah, I didn't trust it, definitely. Oh, it's a really powerful smell. Moondog Spot. Rex, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that. I really do. That is kind. Thank you. Yeah, it smells like sage is like, and I know it really is powerful. It's a powerful herbal um like cleanser, better. And like my aunt used to burn it in the house, in our family house. My family house, that was my great grandfather's house, is older than this house that I live in. And that house is really haunted. But she used to burn it in an abalone shell, and I'd have to leave because my eyes would fucking swell up. It just smells like, I don't know, it smells like burnt doo-doo hair. Like, it's gross. My daughter's boyfriend, he's a really good kid. Prayers work just as good. I have a whole like thing of prayers that I brought with me. Um so no, I'm just allergic to it. It's not my demons. I don't have demons. I'm just allergic to it. I definitely will, Moondog. Thank you so much. That is so kind of you. You and your brother. But I heard burning cedar also works as a cleanser as well against spirits. Cedar is another strong Native American, well, Mohawk Algonquin uh, spiritual cleanser as well. I don't know about any other tribes, but burning cedar and my aunt used to burn that and white sage, but she burned cedar when I was home. Yeah, cedar smells good. Sweetgrass too. Thank you, Tina Marie. I couldn't remember the other thing that she burnt. Funny thing though, my cousin and I, so my aunt had a huge part in raising me, and when I was a little kid, and so I had no brothers or sisters. So I had my aunt's daughter and her son, but I was closer to my cousin Diana, and we were like terrorists. She was like 6 years older than me. And I was like more like a brother to her than her actual brother. So my aunt was just super into our heritage, our Native American heritage. She had a Native American store called Native Hearts. We used to go to powwows. I danced fancy dance and traditional on the circuit and stuff, but we would fuck with her terribly. And one night she was smoking her peace pipe, doing the four I can't even think, my brain's not working. The four directions, north, west, or northeast, southwest. And so she smoked her pipe, she was fucking talking and yada yada. And I looked at Diana and I'm like, hey, we should get her high tonight. And I'm like 15. My cousin Diana was like 22. She's like, yeah, let's do it. So we were like, listen, Aunt Bonnie, I'm like, you got to smoke with us. And she's like, what? I'm smoking right now, Jeffrey. And I'm like, no, we're going to smoke some weed and you're going to smoke with us. And we won't tell Uncle Mark. Okay. And she's like, okay. It was like, it wasn't even a twist of the wrist, She's like, okay. So we get her baked and she goes in the fucking living room and she's like this for the entire night. And for some reason, she just started farting like fucking nonstop. My aunt is like beefing ass, and me and my cousin couldn't stop laughing at her. And then one time we did this really terrible trick to her. My aunt loved customs, so she had these little Easter egg holders, those like silver. They look like a little cup, and you put the egg in it. You go. So we all painted these Easter eggs, right? And I was like, I go, let's fucking not boil one. Let's let her paint one that's not boiled. And she's like, oh my God, that is the greatest. And I'm like, we'll just let her paint it. We'll think it's hers. That'll be hers to crack on Easter morning. And it won't be a hard boiled egg. It'll just fucking explode everywhere. And she's like, that is great. And so we're all in the dining room, and she's like, the dining room was cool because it was off the side of the living room. And then there was another living room, and it had this like opening to the kitchen. So we all sit down, we get it, and we all have our Easter egg. And Diana can't stop laughing. And I'm like, fucking stop. And like my aunt kind of knew something was up, but she didn't. She thought we were playing a prank on, but it was something else. She whacks the fucking egg and it just goes. And she was so mad. It was so funny, though. It was just great. All right, here we go. Yeah, we like my aunt is she's like really, I don't know, she's funny. But to compete in native dancing on the circuit, you have to have your CDIB card. And so like I danced for 10 years. Fancy dance though for competition. It was good. Vixen sexy. I feel great. Tired all the time though. Eco, how are you? There's Chicken Man. What's going on, brother? All right, here we go. I live with my wife in a home we recently purchased 6 months ago. I have never had an experience like this before, and I am not sure what I should do, if anything. Last night at approximately 3:45 Central Standard Time, I woke up suddenly, roll over, and see a 7-foot tall, dark silhouette standing over my wife's side of the bed. I flinched and jumped out of bed, took my eyes off the being for probably half a second, and it had disappeared. There was nothing there that could have been mistaken for what I saw, a coat rack or anything of the sort. It was dark, so no lights were on, and I had just woken up from sleeping. However, my eyes were adjusted to the darkness, and whatever it was seemed far darker than anything else in the room, like a solid black, as if you had drawn a solid Sharpie figure on a dark gray piece of paper. The silhouette was very tall with no details on its body or face, no hair, ears, or impressions for eyes. It took three-dimensional as I could make out a radius around the dome of its head and neck. It had broad shoulders as opposed to a lot of similar reports I've seen online. It looked slightly hunched over and was staring directly at me. I say this because it looked like it had a small forward tilt to its head. I saw its full body from where I imagine its knees were. Its midsection tapered slightly inward from the broadness of its shoulders, and from the waist down, it looked the same, no gaps of shadow between where its legs would have been, as if it was wearing a cloak that draped down to its feet. All a deep, solid black color. I looked at it for about 2 seconds before I jumped up. I noticed it immediately when I rolled over, but didn't understand what I was looking at for only for a moment or two. I suspect my delayed reaction was due to the fact that I was asleep shortly before I got my bearings. I have no idea what it was or what to do. I remained awake for about an hour afterward before falling back to sleep. I wake up at 6 a.m. I don't know. Does anyone have any advice for me? I mentioned it to my wife, only that I saw something strange the other night, and she should tell me if she sees anything odd in the future. I didn't want to scare her, but it sure scared the hell out of me. All right. Saddam or RuPaul? Saddam or RuPaul? You guys pick the lot lizard story you want. Help me, please. Send me an email, please. I want to know more what you were saying. That would be the best. Please and thank you. RuPaul or Sudam, and we have RuPaul wins it. RuPaul wins it. All right. Here we go. The fluorescent hum of the trucker's oasis and grease pit was a constant low thrum of Lizzo's empire. From the chipped formica counter of the diner to a perpetually overflowing dumpster behind the fuel pumps. Every inch of this Interstate 40 pit stop was her domain. Lizzo, the undisputed queen of the lot lizards, with an iron fist wrapped in a sequenced glove. She wasn't just a woman. She was a force of nature, a shimmering, plus-sized supernova of sass, street smarts, and an unshakable belief in the power of good red lipstick. Her crown wasn't diamond-encrusted. It was a gravity-defying, teased-up beehive that could be seen more greasy spoons than the truck driver's stomach. Her scepter, a perfectly manicured hand that could expertly count a wad of $20 bills or deliver a glare that could melt chrome. Tonight was no different. The air was thick with the scent of diesel, stale coffee, and the faint, sweet perfume Lizzo favored, a cheap blend of vanilla and unwavering confidence. She leaned against the big rig, its engine purring like a contented cat, as a grizzled trucker named Rusty fumbled with his wallet. "You tell Wanda I said hi, darling," Lizzo purred, pocketing the cash with a practiced flick of her wrist. "And next time, try the chili. It's got a little kick that'll clean your sinuses." Rusty chuckled, tipping his cap. "Always a pleasure, Lizzo. You keep this place from going completely to rot." Lizzo watched him lumber back into his cab, a flicker of something akin to a maternal pride in her eyes. She might fleece these men for a living, but they were her men, her territory, and nobody messed with Lizzo's territory. Then a hush descended. Not a natural quiet, but a sudden, almost revered stillness that crackled with the unfamiliar energy. The distant static of a CB radio seemed to die down. The fry cook paused mid-flip. Even the circling buzzards seemed to hold their breath. A sleek black Cadillac Escalade, polished to a mirror sheen, glided into the lot. It looked utterly out of place, like a diamond earring dropped in a mud puddle. The doors opened with a soft hiss, and out stepped a vision that made Lizzo's meticulously applied foundation crack a fraction. Tall, impossibly tall, a shimmering cascade of blonde hair defying gravity, catching the harsh lot lights like a disco ball. The dress was a masterpiece of sequins and feathers, a theatrical storm of crimson that swept the grimy asphalt. The face, sculptured and painted with an artist's precision, held a smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. Those eyes sharp and calculating, scanning the lot, not with appreciation, but with an almost hungerness. This was RuPaul. Lizzo felt a primal hackle rise. This wasn't just a new girl, or even a new drag queen looking to slum it up. This was something else entirely. RuPaul exuded an aura of perfection, a flawless sheen that felt less like beauty and more like a carefully constructed lure. RuPaul's gaze finally landed upon Lizzo, and a smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed a shade too bright. "Well, hello, sister," a voice purred, smooth as expensive silk over broken glass. "Looking absolutely delicious." Lizzo bristled. "Custard honey. I'm a whole damn buffet. But I ain't on the menu. This here's my kitchen." RuPaul chuckled, a sound like wind chimes made of bone. "Oh, I know a queen when I see one. And you, my dear, are undoubtedly reigning supreme over this charming establishment." Her eyes darted to the truckers milling about, a glint of something predatory in their depths. Such a bounty, such fresh meat. Lizzo's internal sirens blared. Looky here, fancy pants, she said, stepping forward, her bulk a defiant wall. I don't know what kind of party you just rolled out of, but around here, we got rules. First rule, my girls, my truckers. Second rule, no funny business. And by no funny business, I mean anything crazier than a trucker trying to pay with cryptocurrency. RuPaul simply arched a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Funny business, my dear, I am funny business. And as for rules, some rules are simply meant to be broken, especially when there's such a delightful buffet to offer. The next few hours were a slow motion car crash of escalating tension. RuPaul didn't hustle like Lizzo's girls. She didn't even talk to the truckers much. Instead, she simply glided. She'd drift past a weary long hauled trucker, her perfume a dizzying cloud of exotic floral, the smile a promise of unimaginable delights. And then a trucker would simply vanish. First, it was Big Al, known for his booming laugh and his love of pecan pie. He'd been gazing at RuPaul with a dazed grin, then walked behind a parked trailer with her. Lizzo heard a faint, wet smack. She went to investigate. There was nothing but a lingering scent of lilies and the distinct lack of Al's worn trucker hat. Then Slim Jim, who just moments before had been bragging about his grandkids, followed RuPaul towards the distant, dark corner of the lot. His eyes glazed over. Lizzo rushed towards him, yelling, Jim, don't go with her. She ain't right. But it was too late. They disappeared behind the diesel pumps, and a gust of wind, oddly cold, swept through. Lizzo found only a single perfectly manicured crimson feather stuck to the pump. That ain't right, she muttered, her brow furrowed. That ain't right at all. This wasn't competition. This was culling. Lizzo, despite her profession, had a strangely fierce loyalty to her regulars. They were rough around the edges, sure, but they were her rough edges. She wasn't about to let some interdimensional drag queen turn her truck stop into a human-sized snack bar. She found RuPaul standing at the entrance of the diner, casually sipping black coffee. A satisfied smirk played on the lips. Around her truckers seemed to avoid eye contact, a nervous energy rippling through the usual boisterous crowd. You think this is cute, sis? Lizzo roared, striding towards her. Every sequence on her outfit shimmered with righteous fury. You think you can come into my house, snatch my clientele, and turn them into whatever you're turning them into? RuPaul lowered her coffee, her eyes narrowed. Oh, honey, you misunderstood. I'm not snatching anybody. I'm simply providing an experience they soon won't forget, or rather, won't remember at all. And winked, a gesture that sent a chill down Lizzo's spine. And as for your house, darling, it's charming little hovel. But I prefer to think of it rather a well-stocked pantry. Pantry? Lizzo scoffed, her voice rising to a dangerous crescendo. You ain't getting another bite, you hungry heifer. This ends now. With a guttural growl, Lizzo charged. It wasn't elegant, but it was efficient. Her sheer momentum, combined with years of breaking up bar fights and fending off grabby hands, was formidable. RuPaul, however, was faster. She sidestepped with an almost unnatural grace. The crimson dress swirled like liquid fire. Lizzo stumbled, catching herself on a table. RuPaul's hand, impossibly long and tipped with claws that seemed to glint in the dim light, shot out and grabbed Lizzo's beehive. Nah, honey, Lizzo shrieked, battling the hand away. You don't touch the hair. That's an act of war. RuPaul's smile vanished, replaced with a look of pure, unadulterated malice. War, you say? Very well. The air shimmered around RuPaul, her silhouette blurred, lengthening, widening. The sequence on her dress began to ripple, not reflecting light, but absorbing it, turning into something dark and callous. Her impossibly tall blonde hair bristled, transforming into a tangle of sharp, feathery spines. Her eyes, already unsettled, now glowed with an eternal, unholy light. The crunch of bone and tearing of fabric filled the diner. RuPaul's elegant limbs distended, growing monstrously long, jointed strangely. From her back, two vast, leathery wings, like those of a bat, but edged with iridescent feathers, unfurled with a terrifying thwack, scattering debris and sending truckers screaming. The drag queen was gone, replaced by a grotesque, magnificent creature of nightmares, a flying monster, a horrifying amalgamation of beauty and beast, its face still recognizable RuPaul, but twisted into a predatory sneer, revealing multiple rows of needle-sharp teeth. "You were a decent snack, Lizzo," the creature hissed, its voice a symphony of growls and whispers. "But you'll make an even better main course." Lizzo, for the first time in her life, felt true fear. This wasn't a fight she could win with a well-aimed purse or a cutting remark. This was a monster, a flying monster, now hovering several feet off the ground, its talons dripping with something dark and viscous. "Shackleneck, thank you, brother!" The monster lunged, its shadow engulfed Lizzo. She let out a scream that shook the very foundation of the greasy spoon, dodging just as the talon tore through the diner's counter, sending splinters flying. Lizzo scrambled, her heart pounding like a diesel engine. She saw her reflection in the shattered piece of the mirror on the wall, smeared lipstick, smudged eyeliner, a look of terror. But then an idea as wild and desperate as it was brilliant sparkled in her mind. "You want fresh meat, you overgrown bitch," Lizzo yelled, grabbing the fire extinguisher from the wall. "Well, get a load of this." With a mighty heave, Lizzo aimed the nozzle and unleashed a blinding, freezing cloud of CO2 directly at the flying monster's face. The creature shrieked, a sound that seemed to tear at the very fabric of reality. Its iridescent feathers frosted over its eyes, those glowing beacons of hunger, squinted and watered. "My face!" RuPaul the monster wailed, swatting at the icy mist. "You ruined my makeup!" The monster thrashed, momentarily disoriented by the unexpected assault. Lizzo did not wait. She grabbed a sizzling cast iron skillet from the abandoned grill, still smelling of bacon, and with every ounce of frustration and fear she possessed, she hurled it. The skillet, a perfect circle of searing hot metal, spun through the air and struck the creature with a resounding clang between its leathery wings. A shower of sparks, both metallic and strangely magical, erupted. The monster shrieked again, this time with genuine pain. It staggered in the air, its wings flapping wildly, uncontrollably. The blast of CO2 had momentarily impaired its vision, and the skillet had thrown it off balance. With a final ferocious cry of, "You haven't seen the last of me yet, you tacky heifer," the creature careened out of the diner, smashing through the window with a deafening crash, and disappeared into the night, a fading, grotesque silhouette. Lizzo stood panting, the fire extinguisher still clutched in her hand, and the smell of burnt hair and CO2 mingled with the lingering scent of unnatural lilies. Her elaborate beehive was askew, her lipstick a mess, but she was alive. The truck stop was in chaos, truckers huddled in the corner, trembling. The diner was a wreck, but Lizzo, the queen of the lot lizards, had faced down a flying, shape-shifting monster and lived to tell the tale. She smoothed her outfit, adjusted her beehive with a shaky hand, and surveyed the wreckage. All right. Settle down, y'all," she announced, her voice still a little breathless, but regaining its usual commanding tone. "Somebody get me some coffee, and tell Hank to come and fix this damn window. We got a business to do." As for RuPaul, her crimson feather, now slightly singed, lay on the grimy floor of the diner. A chilling reminder that while Lizzo had won the battle, the war for the souls of the interstate travelers might have just gotten started. And somewhere out there, a fabulous, hungry horror was nursing a severe headache and plotting the next grand entrance. Lizzo knew she had to be ready. After all, a queen's work is never truly done. That was a good one, right? I had to give her a new freaking villain to fight, and I figured RuPaul would be the best. Eddie Houston, how are you, buddy? Thank you, 59. Redbird, thank you so much. Guys, thank you. Shackleneck, thank you. Thank you, Aramook. I know what SDL stands for, but I can't tell you. Silly? Never mind. Aramook! I almost put you in that one, Aramek, because of the wings. I love you, buddy. I read your thing. I read your text. I'm telling you, I'm married to Lizzo. Ugh. All right. As I grow older and not much wiser, I'd like to share two separate incidents where I believe I had heard a howl of a Sasquatch in the high Sierras. In 1972, I was about to start college at Columbia Junior College, now Columbia Community College, and had secured lodging in the town of Long Barn, a 45 to 60-minute drive from Sonora, the largest city in my area. My roommate, whose last name was Crotch, yeah, just like that kind of crotch, was a disgusting human being, but could cook and knew how to find big mushrooms. He talked me into a 3-day jaunt into the nearby immigrant wilderness, which is now adjacent to the Pacific Crest Trail. In those days, you could hike into the immigrant and see no one for weeks at a time. It was early September, perfect hiking weather, and we headed towards the Sonora Pass and walked into the immigrant with surplus gear. The best two poor college kids could afford. Crotch did find some excellent mushrooms and proved himself an excellent cook. I let him eat it just in case. Our second night out was unusually warm for that time of year in the high Sierras, perhaps 7,000 feet, when a light breeze brought into our tent an unusual smell. It smelled of dung, rotten flora of some kind, and fish. Now I must explain. I am not a newbie to the high Sierras. My uncles and older cousins would take me hunting as a child, and then I learned fishing technique, both legal and illegal, from my two Native American uncles, so I smelled decomposing animals and skunks many times. This aroma had no comparison. The night was lit by a half a moon, if I remember clearly. This also was unusual, for it was not uncommon for mountain nights to be cloudy or hazy. So this point stands out in the mind. We then heard a howl that I immediately knew was not a mountain lion, coyote, coy dog, or a dying creature of any kind. It sustained its howl for what sounded like an ungodly amount of time. Then came a knocking sound like on wood. This was not the sound of trees scraping together in the wind. There was no wind. Just a very, very light breeze, if any. Crotch, who hailed from Southern California and was familiar with the San Bernardino Mountains and the animals of that range, asked me what the sound was. I felt embarrassed to say. The Uma, as my uncles call it, Sasquatch. Crotch was too scared to contradict me, which he did about everything. The following morning, after a very unsettled rest, we packed up and headed deeper into the forest. We found a tree branch broken and twisted every few yards for about a quarter of a mile. I'd like to say we found a large footprint, but we weren't really looking. We did find much of our wreckage of a old World War II cargo plane with some of its cargo still intact. These wrecks litter High Sierra. We illegally took some of the cargo back to our cabin in our backpacks. I wish I still had the Remington-made Colt 45 pistol. The second event occurred only 4 years ago at a primitive skills and herbal feast my school used to sponsor. We had about 20 people who came to the feast, and we camped at an established campground just below the part-time community of Dardanelles. There are no winter residents. Thank you, Redbird! My wife had camped in this area as a child, and we brought our own children here for many years. Except for the occasional raiding bear, no one had ever had any problems at Clark Forks. At perhaps 3 a.m, I was sleeping in our large tent with my foster daughter while my wife slept in a separate tent, avoiding my snoring. When we both woke up suddenly, we heard the howl, somewhat high-pitched, that continued for over a minute. But this howl sounded like it was coming from something that was running. It echoed around the campground, except for a higher pitch. It sounded just like that howl I heard late in the summer of '72. My daughter and I clutched each other. Is that what I think it is? She asked. I nodded and fumbled out. Yeah, the Uma. The following morning, I asked my students if any others had heard the sound. One person said it was a bad imitation of a Sasquatch at 3 a.m. A few others admitted to hearing it, and only this past year, 3 others finally admitted to it. In October of that year, I went to the site of the Sasquatch Research Group and listened to supposed recordings of the creature. Of the 5 good recordings, 4 matched what I had heard perfectly. My wife was upset that she had missed the excitement. We've returned to Clark Forks, but the creature has never given us another late night serenade. That being said, we still camp there and will continue to do so. I just feel so grateful that I was able to hear it. But I do remember something my uncle shared. Once you heard the voice of the Uma, your life will be changed forever. It may be bad, it may be good. Well, so far, though I have yet to win the lotto, my life with the woman I love for 30 years has been really good. Thank you. Sincerely, Doc. Redbird, thank you so much. The fuck was that? What? Come here. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. Yeah. Oh. No, it wasn't Tigger. It wasn't Tigger. I don't know. You guys could hear that? That's fucking crazy. No, he just came bolting in here because he heard it. No, he came running in because he heard it. That's why I thought it was Tigger. I thought like he fell or something. That's nuts that you guys could hear that. Wow. That's creepy. That's really creepy. Holy shit. I'm just going to keep reading encounters so I don't get freaked out. I don't know what you heard, SDL, but that did not sound like a moving box. It sounded like my whole roof got ripped off. It was like, whoa. My experience with the reptilian woman happened in 1991 when I lived with my grandparents in Serbia. I came there only to visit them in the spring, but I had to stay there because the war started in Croatia and shells were falling on my city. I had no friends there. I would be bored in my room watching TV. So I often took the bus around the city without a specific goal. I just wandered. My grandfather registered me as a war refugee, so I had a free ticket with which I could ride as much as I wanted. That night I was returning home, as always, by bus number 37, and I was sitting in the part of the bus where the chairs are opposite of each other. A woman was sitting right in front of me. She looked attractive, in her 30s, I think. She had makeup on her eyes and mouth and a hat on her head. Something inexplicably drew me to her. So I kept looking into her eyes. She persistently avoided my gaze. She looked left and right the whole time, so our eyes never met. And then I suddenly noticed how, with her mouth closed, she was touching her inner part of her cheek with her tongue, and that was strange to me. But I continued to look into her eyes without stopping. And then she looked directly at me in the eyes for the first time. She threw out a snake's tongue and started to hiss at me. Suddenly, I became completely paralyzed. My vision got darker, and I saw a bunch of black dots. I felt terrible fear, and I thought I wouldn't survive. I don't know how long I was in that state. I couldn't move a bit. And at one point, the bus stopped at the station, the door opened, and I somehow managed to get up and run off the bus. I don't even know how I got home. I only know that I ran as fast as I could. For the next 2 days, I felt completely exhausted. I was like in some kind of delirium. My grandmother had to carry food to my bed. It was only on the third day that I could function normal again. Thank you for allowing me to share. Speaking of delirium, I haven't seen delirium tonight either. But here's my thing. Dude, are you like some kind of freak? Like you're staring at this one. There's a really pretty woman on the bus, and I just keep staring at her. Like, is anybody like that? The women on the live stream tonight, if some bozo is staring at you and not stopping, like, what the hell? Like, I think I would fucking stick out my forked tongue and hiss too. What's up, Wiley? San Fran's here? I didn't see San Fran. When did they pop in? They're not here either. That's crazy. Yeah, man, that's just weird. Like, stop staring at me, you fucking pervert. Jesus. Like, learn some manners. You have no manners. You have no tact. You're just some perv. Get off the bus, buddy. All right, I got a long black-eyed kids encounter for you. A long black-eyed kids encounter. DL Hemingway, what's up, buddy? Sorry I missed you. Didn't say hi. Miss Shelley, how are you? Yeah, but if they're staring at you, Julie, just like staring at you, like you don't know what the creeper's thinking. And then to notice that she's playing with her tongue in her mouth, like, dude, you're a perv. What were you thinking about, buddy? You deserve to get hissed at. You know? Shit. You dirty, dirty birdie. To preface all of this, I was a counselor at this camp for 3 consecutive summers. And prior to this, I can only recall one previous paranormal experience back at boarding school in the United Kingdom before working there. Boarding school. Well, aren't you just special, Tad? I had my doubts about working at this particular camp. This is in upstate New York. Tad doesn't like upstate New York, the little prick. I had my doubts about working at this particular camp when I was initially hired, as I couldn't find much information about it online, from it being owned by a Masonic temple. Did I read this one already? I don't think I read this one yet. It seems familiar, though. Anyway, we'll start. My doubts. It was owned by a Masonic temple, and I was looking, and it looked dated. My first paranormal experience happened on my very first night. I was in the topping cabin and remember drifting in and out of sleep as it was hard to get comfortable being a new bed and new environment. At around 2 a.m., I remember hearing footsteps walking down the hallway and stopping every couple meters. I figured it was someone checking in on each room to see if everyone was in bed. And to those of you who know topping, know that the bedrooms don't have doors. So I sat up in bed waiting for my turn to see who would stop in my room. And I never saw a person. Next, the footsteps continued for a minute or so. And although it freaked me a little bit out, I just chalked it up as not being a big deal and fell asleep eventually. Next morning, I asked around the cabin to try and find out who or why someone was up that late walking around. And that's when someone who had attended the camp for around 8 years as both a camper and a counselor joked, "Sounds like you heard Ruby," which is the person said to haunt the cabin, and Eerie one of the other, and Eerie of the others. A few weeks later, I had another experience during the first season of boys camp. I was a counselor in Beck Beta, which occupied the upper part of Beck cabin closest to the rec center. I came back from my night off and sat on my bed in the counselor's bedroom for a little while, continuing some work on my laptop. 30 minutes of silence passed when all of a sudden I hear someone running down the hallway. And as I got to the bedroom door, it flung open. The running immediately stopped, and I jumped off my bed, thinking it was one of the kids, to find out nobody was there. This woke up my other 2 roommates, 2 other counselors, and I explained what I just saw. So we proceeded to look around the cabin, and it quickly became apparent that nobody could have done it. and nobody was invading us. One thing I also remember about this is that you can't just simply push the bedroom door open, but you have to physically rotate the handle about 180 degrees. So for that to happen that quickly mid-sprint would have had to have been crazy. By this point, I was starting to hear about other people's experiences around camp for years gone by. And although some of them are far-fetched, I started to believe them and had heard similar stories about running footsteps being heard. As the weeks go by and as I share these experiences with my people, I then get told that there is an actual graveyard on the camp. For what I remember, this was the Delamare family that used to occupy the main house on the land way back. I wonder why that's not in the brochure. Haha. If I recall correctly, there is a grave for a very young kid in there as well. But although it's not necessarily relevant to any of these experiences, I did find it creepy. And it did become a stop on the ghost walk that we organized later in the summer for the staff and some of the topping kids in an attempt to scare them encounter more spirits. In my second year there, a group of us would regularly go in search of these spirits on our nights off, frequently going to the creepiest place like the chapel and attempting to talk to these spirits while sitting in total darkness, hoping to get something to move or communicate back to us, and also sitting in silence for a while to hear any activity. Now, this particular story gives me the most chills, only for a few reasons. I guess at saying there is 6 to 7 of us sitting in the theater seating one night, doing our best effort to talk to the spirits like you see on paranormal shows. We were spread out around the room and talking in turn, asking questions to provoke something. I was sitting on the end of the left aisle, around 6th row toward the stage, again in total darkness. I asked aloud, if there are any spirits in this room with us, do you want us to leave you alone now? A second later, we all hear a yes in a whispery tone. We were all frozen. Everyone had gasped. My friend said, "What the fuck, did you just hear that?" And we were all fumbling around the exit, going through the side exit door. This might sound insane to some of you, but the part I left out is that I have a voice recording of all this. When I go back home to the UK in a day or two, I will dig out the hard drives and hopefully be able to send them to you. My only experience I had on my third and final year working there in the Allen cabins, which was an old infirmary, at this camp many years ago, and in another user of the cabin, there is a ghost of a nurse that would tend to kids. Although I didn't experience that, I can also confirm that it was one of the many experiences thrown around at the camp by the kids and staff of all ages. My experience was that one night I noticed that the lights to the rec hall were left on, and it seemed to be keeping me awake. So I head out there to turn them off and return to bed. 2 minutes later, it flicked on again. No worries, I thought. Someone was needed on, perhaps as some kind of nightlight. Now I am struggling to sleep because of the light. I hear no movement after 15 minutes, so I get up and turn it off. Head back to bed. Seconds later, it flicks on again. I go back, knowing there's only one switch. I flick it back to see who I'm battling with on the other side. Nothing happens for a second later, when the switch by my hand starts to flick up and down around 10 times, leaving it in the on position. I hurried back in disbelief at whatever just happened. So I put my headphones in as to get some mental escape, where I eventually fell asleep. Now, it's been a few years, but I hope someone past, present at this camp finds this more interesting. Although I had my doubts about working at this camp, year to year, it goes through so So many staffing and program changes. My 3 years working there were truly some of the best. And I have met so many great people. It's changed my life in more than one way. I haven't had any other paranormal experiences since working there. But if you're on the fence about working or going as a camper or staff, go embrace everything it offers. Thank you. Turbo Christ, what's up? Wolf Moose Bear, how are you? Is the heat on? Has it been cold where you guys live lately? It was 27 degrees the other night. No, Tyler 420. It's this. Turbo Christ is Jesus in roller skates going down the road just like this. It's 46 right now. The other night it was 27 degrees. It was so cold. My ACs were still in. I took them out last night in the heater. And I was freezing. Tigger got under the covers because he was cold. He's such a fatty. I'm literally getting a tattoo of that 59th just because of Turbo Christ. I'm getting that tattoo. Jesus, roller skates, giving the peace sign. That's so sick. I think there's a little more. I can think of a couple better things, Julie. But Tigger will do. Cold weather is coming back. Coming back. Wow, it is almost 2. Tigger is awesome. Tigger's my best friend in the whole world. You know you need help when your best friend's a cat. This took place in Winnipeg, Manitoba, 2005 to 2007. I would also like to add that my mom suffered extremely severe mental health episodes while we lived in this house. She was hospitalized for 3 months. She believed people were watching her and worms were crawling out of her skin. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia, but all symptoms stopped when we moved. She now refuses to talk about it, but swears she never saw a thing in the house and that it wasn't haunted. I also have no writing skills, but I'll try to describe everything as best as I can. The experience. When I was roughly 10 and my sister was about 8, my family moved across the country for my dad's job. We didn't have much of our stuff yet, as we were still waiting for the moving truck to arrive. We didn't really care, as we had been living in a hotel for the last 3 months while the house hunting, and we were just excited to have some space to run around again. The house was fairly large, but old and laid out very strange. Exploring the basement, we discovered a part of pine paneling on the walls in the bathroom could be moved. On the other side, there was a large crawl space. We gathered up a few toys we did have and figured we could make it a play area. Dumb kids, I know. The crawl space was abnormally large and seemed to continue well past the end of the house and under the lawn. There was a bright red carpet, obnoxiously bright red carpet covering the entire floor, and the area was well lit by a couple of light bulbs, except for the back corners. After playing down there very peacefully for a few minutes by the entrance, we began to hear movement in the very back of the area. We assumed it was a stray cat or another animal that had made its way down there. We began looking around for the source of the noise. At the same time, we both caught sight of what it was. There was a fully white creature crawling slowly from one end of the crawl space to the other. It was humanoid in shape and size, but had no body hair, no eyes, or true facial features. And it had long, scraggly fingers and toes. The thing was crawling on all fours. My sister and I looked at each other and froze before making a break for it and slamming the panel back into place that had been abandoned and abandoning all our toys down there. We never spoke of that moment again until years later when we were in our teens and telling ghost stories with our friends. We both remembered the moment exactly the same and both had nightmares for years. Until the moment I had hoped that it had just been a nightmare, but the second my sister confirmed it, it certainly, definitely changed how I look at it. Boop. Damn, these are all long now. Fuck. I'm going to take a break for a minute and hang out with you guys. Yeah, I'm going to take a break for a second and hang out with you guys and get my eyes back to normal. Ugh. What's up, Clint? How are you, buddy? Clint! Whew. So I'm thinking about going up to where Tom Mezek disappeared tomorrow night. Not night, but like afternoon. I think that'll be decent. We're coming up on 10 years. Jeff, maybe next week do one about a little girl who hung out with a Dogman. Like a Lizzo story? I never had an experience get shared like that, Andy. These are all from people. I don't write these. I only write the Lizzo stories, brother. Oh, wait. Yeah, 10 years. 10 years it's been. I got sideburns. I just don't, they're short right now. My beard, I'm growing my beard back. I had an accidental slip. I'm bringing the Garmin with me, Aramic. That goes everywhere I go, brother. Everywhere I go when I go to those woods. It is handy. It is right on my pack. I just reach around and boop. My dad is good, Clint. My dad is good. Thank you for asking. Thank you. But yeah, I think I'll go. Well, I'm going to see. It's weird because Belle's birthday is November 15th, right? the same day he disappeared. So every year I go there on her birthday for a couple of hours. But I haven't been there in a couple weeks, and I really swear to God, like I have not. It's weird how I feel about the place. Like when I haven't been there for a while, it's like I want to go. Like it's like I don't know if that makes sense. It's almost like it calls to me and says, "Go there." Jordy, how are you, buddy? That's your mom's birthday, Edie? I just didn't comb it, Misguided Angel. I don't think it's a Dogman. I know there's something up there. I know there's like the Canadian guy up in the quarry. That's pretty creepy, right? Yeah. Which book, SDL? He's got a new one out now. The one that him and I are writing together? Is that the one you're talking about? It doesn't haunt me. I don't know. I think about it a lot. I think about it a really lot. Like I need to go there. It's weird. Yeah, that one. Yeah. His new one's really good too. His new one's really good. He was in his 70s. Sonny, how are you? In his newest book, he liked the Kirk story so well, that he wanted to put that in there. His new book, The Kirk Experience up in Mount Shasta. No, I don't take anyone with me. I already explained why. Is because if something ever happened, I could never forgive myself. Like I'd never ever forgive myself. Like I'm up there and God forbid, I bring someone with me and we have to get out of there quickly. I really, really don't want, Arabic, thank you so much. You are really too kind, brother. You really are. No, I had the powder on tonight. I had just taken a shower. Actually, before the live stream, I took a shower. That's why my hair looks messed up. I would feel terrible, like I would feel terrible. I hear you, but I just couldn't do it, Andy, like I would feel like shit if we went there and something happened. I mean, I'm okay. I can't do it live up there. There's no internet up there. It'd be impossible to do. It's in the middle of the Adirondacks. That's why, Jan. I think if you Google Earth it, Clint, you'd be able to find it. Now, speaking of that, thanks, STL. Thanks. You fucking made it happen. Jerk. Ugh. Full disclosure, I'm a believer in the supernatural. I'm also a big fan of true scary stories. Despite my belief in the supernatural, I have never believed in black-eyed kids. even though I've always found them fascinating. They just didn't make any sense. It seemed simultaneously random and random. Nevertheless, I always thought of them as fascinating and hoped that someday I may be able to see one. Anyway, I don't recall the exact day or month, but sometime in the spring of 2018, I was driving on a rural road in Windsor, specifically driving south. He's in central Missouri. Driving south on Evans Road. No, in Windsor, this is a county line road because it is the county line between Henry and Pettis counties. Just south of the eastward turn on Brandon Road, Evan Road makes an L shape. You can see it on Google Earth. That turns the road from north to south to east to west. When heading south, your left is an open field. You can see if there is anything around the bend on the west to east, or east to west. Seeing that there wasn't, I took the turn, then glanced at something on my phone, probably changing the song. When I looked up, I saw a boy in the middle of the road. I wasn't going very fast. You don't want to take a turn like that on a dirt road unless you are going pretty slow. But if I hadn't turned fast, I would have hit him. He remained stationary in the road, and I sailed past him as I landed on the brakes. The fuck? Should we fuck with him? Did you guys hear him yell? Did you hear the person yell? Maybe we should fuck with him. $20. It's $20. There. I don't like this story. It's pissing me off. All right, here we go. My parents rented out an old house while trying to save money for a house they could buy and build. My sister was not born yet, and both my parents worked days. My grandma would be the one taking care of me, so it would be just me and her most of the time. I don't remember the specific date when this happened. However, I do remember the first incident that happened during the summer. My grandma would turn on the TV while I played with my toys when suddenly the front doorbell rang. She takes my hand and opens the door. Nobody was there. Then the back door starts to ring. She tells me to sit down on the couch while she goes to investigate. She probably thinks it's some kids playing around or something. She opens the back door and nobody is there. She closes both the front and back doors, and when she closed them, both doorbells from both sides ring constantly as if two people were ringing the doorbells at the same time. She opens the front door where I could see, and still nobody was there. This time she leaves the door open. She goes to the back, and I peek to make sure she was okay, and still nobody there. At this point, she probably thinks it's the doorbell malfunctioning. And she takes me to my room and turns on the TV while both of the doorbells are ringing. She turns the volume to max to make sure I could not hear the doorbells. Then we could hear the constant banging coming from the basement, as if someone had an object and was hitting the ceiling or the floor of my bedroom. Her face was pale. I could tell my grandmother was scared. So, while both the doorbells are still ringing, she has to go to the basement to investigate. She quickly opens the door and runs to the downstairs and starts yelling, "Is anybody there?" Then I could hear a distinct laughing coming through the walls. I remember it sounded like an old man. Nothing sinister, just laughing. My grandmother comes up and tells me that nobody's in the basement. And I tell her I heard someone laughing and it's coming through the walls. She puts her head against the wall and she froze. After a couple of seconds, she takes her hand and rushes to the car. We pass the kitchen, and we both notice the 4 stove burners are on max heat. She quickly turns them off, and when she did, everything went back to normal. Everything. Both doorbells stopped ringing, the banging in the basement stopped, and the laughing was gone. My grandma told my parents about the incident. I was still extremely young to realize what had happened. I asked my parents years later if they knew what happened that day, and they both shrugged me off, saying that it was nothing to worry about. We moved to a new house 3 months later. My second experience. This is probably the most traumatic experience of my life. It is ingrained in the back of my mind, and I remember it so vividly. My granddad was an avid smoker. He developed lung cancer and was on his deathbed on the night of March 23rd, 2008. He was my mom's dad, so she and my many aunts all stayed with him at the hospital. My dad, sister, and I were there during the day. However, my mom told us to go home and rest. The phone starts ringing at around 2 in the morning, and I am the one who answers. It's my mom, and she tells me that my granddad is coughing out blood, and he does not have much time left. I get up and wake up my sister and dad, and we head down to the garage where the car is parked. Our garage is heated. I open the passenger door and get in. However, I could feel something in the car. It was extremely cold. Half my body was in the car while my other half was out of the car. It was night and day difference between the temperatures. My dad and sister noticed it as well, but decided to ignore it. My sister gets into the back seat and my dad starts the car and we start driving. Our car suddenly came to the stop in the middle of the intersection right before we could exit our neighborhood. I looked at my dad and asked, "What are you doing? Why are you stopped?" He looks back at me and says, "Look at my foot. It's on the gas pedal. There's probably something wrong with the car. It's extremely groggy." So I close my eyes for a bit. I'm extremely groggy, so I close my eyes for a bit. And I look outside to make sure there is no cars coming. When I turned back to my dad, he was super stiff, and both of his hands are on the steering wheel. Then, for whatever reason, the gear shifter started moving by itself from park to drive to neutral to reverse. Nobody was touching it. It was impossible for it to move like that. There had to be something or someone physically moving it. Then it suddenly switched from moving slowly to slamming back and forth. I thought I was dreaming. I thought this was not real. And I started to remember what happened with my grandma back in the old house. I closed my eyes and just started to listen to my breathing thing. I was going to wake up. Then I could hear a slight creaking coming from the driver's seat, and my sister yells my name. I opened my eyes slowly and turned my head to my dad. The recliner in my dad's seat was moving him back and forth slowly, and just like the gear shifter, it suddenly started throwing his body back and forth almost like a rag doll. Both of his hands are on the steering wheel, and he's extremely stiff, as if he is flexing his entire body. His eyes are bulging out of his eye sockets. Then my sister starts to cry. I tense up, and my body is completely frozen. My eyes were glued to what I was seeing and couldn't move. The gear shift still slamming back and forth, the reclining seat throwing my dad around, and the stiffness of my dad was just unbelievable. Then the adjustable seat on the driver's side starts moving my dad back and forth, and I noticed that he had a slight smirk on his face. His bulging eyes and his smile were somewhat sinister. I thought that we are going to die by whatever is in the car with us, but I knew I had to get my sister to safety, adrenaline rushing through my body, and I unbuckled my seat, opened my door, and ran toward the back, opened my sister's door. When I unbuckled her seatbelt, everything goes back to normal. My dad regained consciousness and wasn't stiff anymore. The gear shift was back in park, and my dad asked me, "Why are you outside, and why are you unbuckling your sister's seat? Get back in the car." I slowly walked back to the passenger side, got in the car, and slowed the door, shut the door. My dad adjusts his seat and puts the car in drive and starts driving. I asked my dad if he remembers what happened. However, he tells us that he doesn't remember a thing. I could tell in the back of my mind that he knew. He just didn't want to scare us even more. My grandfather passed away at 5 a.m. and and we were all the last family to arrive. It's like it was a signal to us to let us know to hurry up. My sister and I still reminisce on the experience. When we try to ask my dad about it, he just completely ignores us. He was never adamant. He's never admitted to what happened. My mother, sister, and I experienced some more incidents. My third experience. A week after my grandfather died, my mother, sister, and I experienced some paranormal activity. However, most of the experience happened to me. I guess our house was the target because my grandfather and grandmother lived at our house. I remember one day I fell asleep in the living room, woke up because I could hear someone whispering in my ear, very subtly. It was not any language, it was just muttering. I instantly got up because I was terrified. This happened around 8 p.m., and my mother was at my sister's parent-teacher's interview. Grandma was at my aunt's house prepping for Grandpa's funeral, and my dad was working nights, so I quickly realized that there's no one at my house. I thought possibly maybe someone was home. When I stood up, I could see these little yellowish orbs floating all around the room. I thought that it was a chandelier light, making sure it was turned off. I could see the orbs circling around the room. It was terrifying once again, so I yelled to make sure nobody was home. Mom, sister, is anyone home? Nobody replied, so I quickly turned the lights back on. We had a mirror that faces the upstairs, and when I turned the light back on, I noticed a shadow coming from the upstairs. When I looked in the mirror, it looked like a black figure walking with its hand against the rail. Then I heard my grandparents' door open, and we had it closed. I ran out the door without shoes and went straight to my friend's house down the block. They're also super religious, and I told the parents about what happened in the car and the experience I had just now. They tell me that it's just my grandfather saying hi and that it was a good thing. I phoned my mom and told her about the experiences, and she tells me that I am just imagining things, and she'll come back and pick me up when she's done with the parents teachers conference. She picked me up an hour later. We fell asleep, woke up, answering machine glitching out of the night. I look at the clock. It's around 3:15 in the morning. The answering machine kept turning on and off, and it would notify when it would. Answering machine is off. Answering machine is on. Answering machine is off. Answering machine is on. My mom was very skeptical about our experience. However, this seemed to freak her out. My sister and I were frozen once again, and so was my mother. After sitting up and listening to the answering machine, turned it off and on, my mother decided to pull the plug. We all sat up for another 10 minutes on the TV because we were all freaked out. Then the phone rings. My mother lets it ring for quite some time, but I knew she was scared to pick it up. She answers anyone. Hello. She answers. She says, hello. My mother keeps asking. She hangs up the phone and looks at me and my sister with shock. We are all freaked out, but my sister and I fell asleep while my mom stayed awake till my dad came home. I actually talked to my mom during my grandpa's 10-year death anniversary. She admitted that when my sister and I fell asleep that night, she could hear footsteps coming from my grandfather's room. She could hear it walking back and forth from the bedroom into the bathroom. She usually has the door closed, but I do remember waking up. The door was open, all the lights turned on that morning. Apparently, she had to go and check. Footsteps would stop. When she would get back into bed, she would hear the footsteps again. Nobody was home except my mother, I, and my sister. A week later, I tried to forget about what I had experienced that past week. My mother says that it's probably nothing and that I should sleep in my room after sleeping with her for the past week. There are certain areas around the room where it would creak loudly if someone stepped. I fell asleep that night, and when I woke up to hearing one of the creaks after another, it sounded like, I can't fucking, this guy's all over the place. It sounded like creaks, and sure enough, nobody was there. I ran as fast as I could to my mom's room and told her that I could hear someone walking around my bed. She told me just to sleep with her and my sister and that I was imagining things again. I fell asleep. I had a dream about my granddad. I was in the kitchen and I was sitting on a chair he used every morning. I was looking back at the window while the entire backyard was visible. He was on the back porch drinking coffee like he did every morning. He turns his head and smiles and waves like saying goodbye. I waved back and he just kept waving and walking until I couldn't see him anymore. I woke up with tears in my eyes. I spent another week sleeping in my parents' bedroom. But after my dream, I never experienced any sort of paranormal experience. I have never experienced anything ever since that dream. Damn, that was fucking... There was like wording and then miswriting. It was way all over. Jesus. All right. Last Lizzo experience right here. Saddam and Lizzo. Here we go. The air shimmered with the heat of the asphalt and the lingering scent of diesel, a typical Tuesday for Earl the trucker. His chrome rig, the Lone Star laminate, hummed contently as he pulled into the roadside diner, oblivious to the storm brewing in the nether realms, a storm specifically brewed for him by one very miffed dictator. You see, Earl, alongside the legendary Lizzo, queen of the lot lizards and high priestess of the truck stops, had committed a grave offense some months prior. Through a combination of pure, unadulterated sass and a few well-placed tire irons, Lizzo, particularly potent blend of swamp siren breath perfume, had managed to send Saddam Hussein and his moody gay lover Satan packing back to their fiery love nest in hell. Satan, a creature of cosmic despair anyway, had become even more despondent ever since, moping around the infernal halls, complaining about the lack of decent dry cleaning services in hell, and how his horns felt uninspired. This, naturally, had put Saddam in a foul mood, a mood that demanded vengeance. Vengeance, it turned out, came in a full-body patent leather bondage gimp suit, complete with zippers, straps, and an unflattering hood. Saddam, who had somehow slithered back through the crack into the dimensional fabric, probably near the particularly seedy truck stop bathroom, had been lying in wait. Earl was halfway through a plate of lukewarm grits and a coffee that tasted like regret when the diner door burst open. In waddled the figure of Saddam Hussein, resplendent and utterly ridiculous in his squeaky, form-fitting leather ensemble. The gimp suit pulled taut across his stocky frame, making him look less like a menacing dictator and more like a melted licorice stick with identity issues. But in his gloved hands, he clenched an instrument of Earl's doom, a colossus, unadulterated, rubber, purple donkey wiener. It pulsed faintly, as if it had a life of its own, the kind of life you wouldn't wish upon your worst enemy. Earl, Saddam's voice, muffled but unmistakable, squawked through the gimp's mask. For the endless moping, for Satan's existential crisis, for the shame of being sent back to my love nest with a sore tailbone, Earl, bless his simple trucking heart, just blinked. Well, I'll be hornswoggled, he mumbled, dropping his spoon. But Saddam wasn't here for a chit-chat. With a surprisingly burst of speed for a man in so much restrictive leather, he launched himself over the counter. The diner patrons screamed in a mixture of terror and confusion. The rubber donkey wiener, gigantic and floppy, became a weapon of shocking blunt force. It swung with the force of a wrecking ball, impacting Earl's head with a cartoonish thwack. The sheer absurdity of the attack, combined with the immense rubbery mass, was too much for even Earl. His eyes rolled back, a half-chewed grit flake escaped his lips, and he crumbled like a discarded road map. The horror was in the sudden ridiculous finality, the comedy in a murder weapon. Earl the trucker was dead, murdered by a gimp-suited Saddam Hussein with a giant purple rubber donkey wiener. Just as Saddam was doing a triumphant, if awkward, jig that had made his leather suit squeak in protest, a blinding flash of neon pink and glitter erupted to the diner's entrance. The smell of cheap hairspray, whiskey, and raw power filled the air. Nobody! A voice boomed, a voice that could curdle paint and soothe a crying baby simultaneously. Lays a rubber donkey wiener on my Earl. It was Lizzo, queen of the lot lizards. Her beehive hair defied the gravity, her sequenced jumpsuit shimmered, and a look on her face that promised pure hellfire. Her eyes landed on Earl's prone form, then on Saddam still clutching the phallic instrument of death. A low growl rumbled from her chest. You again, you bondage-wearing buffoon, Lizzo roared. You just don't learn, do you? Saddam took a step back. The purple wiener quivered slightly in his grasp. He knew the power of Lizzo. He had seen her turn a broken-down freightliner into a mobile disco with nothing but a well-placed curse and a can of hairspray. But Lizzo wasn't in the mood for parlor tricks. With a battle cry that invoked the spirits of every forgotten truck stop and every wronged road warrior, she lunged. Her lot lizard magic wasn't some delicate spell. It was raw, unapologetic fury. She moved like a cheetah in that jumpsuit, a blur of sequence and righteous anger. She drop-kicked Saddam, sending him skidding across the checkered floor. The purple wiener flew from his grasp, bouncing off the dusty taxidermied deer. Lizzo, channeling the power of caffeine, nicotine, and pure spite, did not let up. She rained down blows, each one punctuated by a satisfying smack of the palm on the patent leather. She used her formidable beehive as a battering ram, headbutting Saddam with the force of a semi-truck, and even at one point deployed a well-aimed knee to Saddam's gimp suit, a sound like deflated balloon. When Saddam lay twitching, squeaking pile of leather on the floor, Lizzo snatched up the colossal purple rubber donkey wiener, her eyes, usually sparkling with mischief, now blazed with the fury of 1,000 scorned truckers. You like this, huh, Saddam? She snarled, hefting this monstrous object. You like using this on my Earl? Well, guess what, honey? Two can play at that game. With a mighty heave, Lizzo ensured the infernal implement became a permanent fixture to Saddam's journey back to the other world. There was a sound that could only be described as wet, rubbery plump, followed by Saddam's gimp, muffled shriek of pure, unadulterated indignity. Go on, you sad sack of leather, Lizzo commanded, kicking Saddam suddenly very stiff rear towards the door.
Go tell your depressed little boyfriend that Lizzo sent you home with a souvenir. With the final desperate squeak, Saddam, forever adorned with a gigantic rubber donkey wiener stuck firmly in his booty hole, vanished in another flash of brimstone and a disgruntled gimp suit. Lizzo turned, her chest heaving, her jumpsuit askew, but her power undiminished. She knelt beside Earl, his dead body, and placed a steady hand on his chest. From her impossibly deep cleavage, she pulled a small iridescent vial filled with shimmering, suspiciously glittered liquid. She uncorked it, muttering an ancient lot lizard incantation, whispering of discount gas, endless highways, and the best damn coffee on I-40. She poured the liquid over Earl's lifeless body. A soft glow emanated from Earl. His eyes fluttered open. He coughed, spitting out the piece of grit. Dang it, Lizzo, he mumbled, sitting up, groggy, rubbing his head. Did I miss the rest of my grits? And what in tarnation was that purple thing? Lizzo just smiled, a victorious, all-knowing smile. Don't you worry your pretty little head about it, Earl. Just remembered the only rubber pink purple thing you need to worry about was the glow of the sunset. Now, how about we get some fresh coffee and maybe a new hat? The last one you got is a little messy. Earl, miraculously alive thanks to the queen of the lot lizard, shook his head, a faint purple outline still running at the edge of his vision. He wasn't sure what had happened, but he knew for one thing, Lizzo always had his back, even when it involved gimp-suited dictators and an enormous rubber donkey part. And that, he realized, was the kind of horror and the kind of humor he could live with again. Damn it. I literally am going to put all three, 1, 2, 4 of the Saddam Hussein, Satan versus Lizzo together. I think I might do a Lizzo book. That would be cool, wouldn't it? That would be cool. Just all Lizzo. But now I've got to bring RuPaul in, and RuPaul needs like 2 more stories with Lizzo, because we've done the there's like 2 or 3 of the 7 dwarves, Grimy and his 7 dwarves. It's like the 80s, 70s, or 80s, whenever. It's really not, it doesn't have a timeline, Turbo Christ. It's like pretty much like in this like weird freaking. Well, I'm tired. That's why, chicken man. I mean, work 16-hour days, 7 days a week. Try it. That's why my reading was off. But I mean, how many people would know? 16 hours, 7 days. Then you get tired. But if I did RuPaul with 2 more stories, all of the Saddam Hussein ones, the 2 rubber chickens, and the seven dwarfs, that would be a total of 12, 14 stories in that one book. Oh, wait. There was a Bermuda Triangle one too, wasn't there? Shit. There's Pops. How are you, dear? I gotta find who would animate him. I think I did a Cardi B one. You know who I could have animate him? Hang on. Let me see. Hang on a second. The guy that did my animation for my videos. Hang on one second. Boop. The guy who did my Dogman thing at the beginning of my uploads. Oh shit, Beavis and Butthead. There you go. Cause he does work for he's like worked for other YouTubers. He's out of Australia. And he only charged me like $50 to do that little bit of thing. But it would almost be worth it to pay like a couple $100 for that whole thing to be animated. That'd be fucking sick. I'm gonna actually ask him about that. That would be sick. I'm gonna do that. Yep. All right, Beavis and Butthead. We've done Sasquatch. We've done Mothman. Huh. What about if we did Beavis and Butthead? I've got the Home State Cryptids poster that's kind of dumb. Let me think of one. There's one that's 31. The Slide Rock Bolter. Have you guys ever heard of the Slide Rock Bolter out of where is that? Colorado, Utah. Is it out of Utah? Slide Rock Bolter. That's what we're going to do. I'm not doing another story, Tyler. I'm beat. I did almost 3 hours tonight. On top of everything else today working. Slide Rock Bolter. All right, here's what this is. And this will be, I'm going to figure out a way of incorporating this. All right, the Slide Rock Bolter. A bizarre creature and fearsome critter recounted by lumberjacks of North America during the 19th and early 20th century. It is believed to live in the mountains of Colorado, but only on mountains where the slope is at an angle greater than 45 degrees. It has an immense head, small eyes, large mouth, which is similar to a sculpin. Its tail ends in a fluke like a dolphin with enormous grab hooks. Slide Rock Bolter is said to have caused great unease amongst tourists visiting the mountains of Colorado. This fearsome animal uses its grab hooks on its divided tail to. It will often remain motionless for days at a time, watching the gulch below for tourists or any helpless creature. Once it spots its prey, it will lift its tail to release the hold on the crest as gravity sends it barreling down. It drools grease from the corner of its mouth. So this is like some cryptid. This is like an old 19th century cryptid that looks like a whale that lives in the Colorado mountains. We're doing it. That's who's going to meet fucking Lizzo next. A fucking land whale. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is on, the old national parks. This is on Legends of the National Parks. I don't know. You guys can't see it because there's a fucking glare. Damn it. Yeah, this is cool. Yeah. Oh, they have a poster of it too. Sick. Yep, we're doing it. All right. I am crashing now. We got 2 hours and 51 minutes in. Oh, I'm going to hit the hay. I want to thank you guys for hanging out. I've already done kind of a missing 411 one where they went into a dimension. I gotta come up with some more. How about this? If you guys, yeah, the Oklahoma octopus. Yes, that's right. You guys have that too. There's in Idaho, there's the Swan Valley monster. 50, not 54. What's 54? Badlands Banshee. Ooh, the Badlands Banshee sounds like a good one. Huh. I wonder if Lizzo can swim. I wonder if Lizzo can swim. That's a good one to think about. Can Lizzo swim? I bet you she can. She floats. Send it away, Turbo. All right, guys. I'm crashing because I am beat. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. I'm going to try to get some more sleep next week so I can be a little more awake. I had an accident last night. I woke up. I went to bed. I went to bed at like 5 this morning because I was recording all night. And I woke up and my earring, this thing, was all the way in my earlobe and stuck. And there was just a ton of blood coming through these. Like, just because it's metal and it was like stuck in there. And I'm like, oh my God, ow. And I woke up and there was like blood on my pillow. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I had to pull my ear like this. I had to go bloop and then pop it through, clean it with cold water, and then put it back in. It was terrible. All right. So next week, if you guys have any goofy ideas, it cannot be serious. It has to be goofy. By Monday, if you come up with an idea by Monday, send it. We've got Beavis and Butthead. I don't know about the fucking land whale. Maybe. But where would... Oh, yeah, we could put the diner by the fucking mountain. That's good. Any goofy ideas, you send them via email. It doesn't even have to be a whole, like, just put a name. Boop. All right. Guys, have a good night. I can't take them out, Jan. They'll close up. And I've stretched them for a long time to be that long or be that wide. So, all right. Have a good night. I'll see you next Saturday. But I will go. Yeah, I'll go to Tom Mezek where Tom Mezek disappeared tomorrow for you. So you'll have it for Monday. All right. I love you guys. Have a good night. Mr. Magoo. Evil Knievel. Emails, guys. Good night.